We're now with Farmers Market, and Nancy, if you could introduce yourself and your colleagues and then make whatever presentation you'd like to make.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm Nancy Whittemore, the Interim Director for Farmers Market. With me today is Margot McCormick. She's the new Farmers Market Board Chair, and this is her first official capacity in that as Chair. So we welcome her and
it's a good way to start it.
I think it's best that I go back and review activities for the last 10 to 11 months and just give an overview of what's happened. As you know, the Department of Finance completed a financial review of the Nashville Farmers Market, and out of that review there came 7 major findings. There was no cost allocation plan to track, monitor, and allocate operational costs to merchants. The allocated cost charges that were in place were inadequate to cover the cost of the market. Segregation of duties, cash payments, and insufficient remittance deadlines were not adequate. There were operational and financial management deficiencies in the areas of special events and the demonstration kitchen. There was not a non-compliance with Metro Civil Service regulations around HR transactions and payroll procedures, and there were discrepancies in the area of direct bills for utilities. After the review was released, the board entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of General Services for 120 days. This task began in May of 2012, and we understood it was going to be temporary, and needless to say, the memorandum of understanding has been extended for 2 times, and I think it's up next month again. So we'll see what happens at what board actions taken then. But the purpose of the memorandum of understanding was for General Services to address the findings in the financial review, to assess the facility and operational issues, and to gain a full understanding of the financial situation at the market. And I want to go back and talk a little bit about the financial review and what we've done in those areas. An implementation plan was developed by General Services and approved by the board. We've taken steps that have addressed all the findings and all the recommendations made by the Department of Finance. And as we speak, it's my understanding that the financial people are back at the market today doing follow-up work on looking at the implementation, on the things that we've implemented. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about are the facility issues. The property had been neglected in the areas of preventive maintenance and ongoing major maintenance and janitorial services. Because of the condition of the property, we requested assessments by the Fire Marshal's Office and by the Department of Codes. There were life safety issues that were identified around electrical, plumbing, building envelope, fire alarms, elevators. Those were identified, and we addressed those immediately. And we continue to do maintenance repairs on an ongoing basis there. But the bigger issue that the market faces today is the budget and the financial situation. There are insufficient funds to cover operational expenses in the current fiscal year. Year-end projections for expenses at this time is $1.8 million. And our revenue projection is 1.5 for the June 30th end date. We're projecting a negative cash balance of $482,000. This includes the $120,000 negative cash ending on June 30th and the $258,000 lease payment that goes to the state. I'm happy to say today that the financial position has improved over the last month. We've gone from a projection of $633,000 deficit to $482,000, and that's because of some additional revenue that's been brought in. The expenses are more than the budget due to the fact that the current budget does not support basic operational cost of the market, such as janitorial services, grounds maintenance, plumbing, HVAC, repairs and maintenance. After much discussion, the board made the recommendation to Metro back in June that they wanted to consider the privatization of the farmers market. This recommendation was taken into consideration, and research was conducted on other farmers market across the country. And I know you have visited several of those across the country, and as you know, that there are some that are managed by private entities, some by not-for-profits, and others by government entities. And that as many different models that are out there, there's several different funding mechanisms that go with those models too. In December, the RFP was authorized and was published in January of 2013. The deadline for proposals was February the 28th, and unfortunately, there were no proposals submitted. In the meantime, a methodology for allocating costs was developed, with the basis being actual square footage, common areas, and type of space. The recovery of cost is a challenge due to the occupancy rate at the market. If you go to the market today, the interior or the market house, it looks very lively. There's lots of people there. The occupancy rate in the market house is about 90% year-round, while the outside sheds are virtually empty from January through April. We're just now starting our peak period, and you'll see a lot of different activities in those outside sheds. But considerable capital investments would need to be made to make the space available to be rented year-round. So, financially there are issues, but in spite of the financial situation at the market, there's many positive things that go on. We just recently have a new merchant in the interior market, Wild and Local Meats. We're recruiting farmers for the season, and we're hoping to get a lot of local farmers into the market to sell their produce. We have over 19,000 people who follow us on Facebook, so we have a huge outreach about the market. We're mentioned in many national publications, and last summer we had night market every third Friday night of every month for about 4 months, and we brought in 2,000 to 3,000 people each night for those markets. So there's lots of good things going on at the market, and I have to say that the staff there are one of the most dedicated staff to the cause and to the market, and do work very hard. Turning to the FY14 proposed budget, it includes a 2% reduction below the line, and it also includes some improvements relating to staffing and operational cost. The development of a revenue strategy and managing the strategy is critical to the market becoming self-sufficient. And now that we know that privatization is not an option at this time, other options will need to be explored. So I am open to questions, and I don't know if Margot has any comments at this time that she'd like to make.
Okay. Well, so in terms of this current fiscal year, the supplemental has been filed, and there's a request for how much?
The net, there's some increase in revenue, but the net is about $480,000.
Right.
$480,000. So the market would operate at that deficit. That includes some of the carryover from the prior fiscal year. There was a loss, and so it was like 120,000 carried over. So it's about a $360,000 loss for this fiscal year.
That includes the lease payment.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So that's 258 of that, and that's not something we do. How many more years of that?
It's my understanding that the last lease payment will be made in fiscal year 15.
So we have 2 more lease payments. Okay.
After this year, yeah.
Okay.
And then your projection for next year is that your revenue will be short of meeting expenses by how much?
Well, next year, what we're talking about, I mean, if you look at how you bring more revenue in, you need more staff and resources to do that. So it's almost like a catch-22.
Well, but just with what you got, assume no staff for a minute, and if you have a projected shortfall based upon current staffing for next year?
Well, based on current staffing, it'd be about the same as we're looking for this year if we did it the way where we are currently.
And then you get to the 2015, and the payment to the state's $250,000 a year.
258.
$258, and that goes away.
Correct.
And then you're still left with a $100,000 shortfall at that point, based on current staffing.
You know, if we could get the occupancy rate up and recover more revenue that way, you know, then you could meet your budget better. But right now, with the open sheds outside, there's only certain times of the year that that space is rentable.
Is there a vision as to how you see the farmers market developing in terms of what type of tenants are there, what the emphasis are, and how you would market it?
I'm going to let our board chair respond to that, because the board has and she clearly has a vision for the market, and And I think, Margot, you want to speak to
Sure.
that?
Being that I haven't even really presided over one meeting of the board yet, this is all sort of in my head, my vision. But I have a very clear understanding and good appreciation for other cities' markets. I worked in New York as a chef for 10 years and understand their green market system. Visited San Francisco many times in the Ferry Building. It would be fantastic if we could gear that outdoor market to more local farmers. The indoor could almost be like a Ferry Building or a Faneuil Hall with local products being made and sold. Maybe more. Bella Nashville just started baking their own loaves of bread, but have a bakery there. Get some cheese makers in, maybe do some Bloomy Ryan, maybe see if Porter Road Butcher or another butcher wanted to come over. Really build that interior as a food stall area, and then perhaps get that outdoor flea market area with some artisan crafts, maybe even getting some of the fairgrounds flea market folks over there to stock that up. But also, I mean, there's so many different directions. I think the diversity of our market makes it very unique, having these three distinct entities all together in one place. I would love to see more educational things being done, maybe have a volunteer grow garden outside, something for children. We're in Nashville. It would be great to get more music events going on down there. I think the night markets best depict what could be,
Right.
With the food trucks and the music and really moving through there. It has a lot of potential. This is a year's worth of sitting on the board as a member. I would love the opportunity to be able to really flesh out some of this vision.
I mean, I agree that it has great potential, and I actually would say that in the last year, you've seen it get better. I mean, I think you've seen the mixture of tenants who are in there now. It's exciting. I've gone down there for lunch. I've gone to the night market, which I agree. If you go to the night market once, I think you fall in love with the concept and think, what a great thing this could be if we could do this more frequently for the city. The issue for us is how you get there, and how you get there budgetarily. But I think we've made progress, but for us the difficulty is just figuring out how we do this with doing a responsible budget. Rich?
Well, I think, Mayor, I agree with you, everything you said, and I think that the issue is how do you do that, and whether we're really willing to invest in some additional staffing and things in order to sort of kind of bet on whether it's going to get better, which I think we're fine. I'm fine doing that. We just need to have a little more meat on that rather than just saying it. I think that the issues are that obviously General Services has been operating it as a caretaker. I don't mean it negatively by any means, but that's not Nancy and her staff's day job. And I think that the board, I think the question is whether we're ready or whether we need a little more information before we say we're ready, or maybe between now and we submit a budget, maybe we get ready, get more information, whether we're comfortable with authorizing the board, assuming this is the board's thoughts too. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, so please tell me if you disagree with me. But whether they need to go out and look for an executive director whose day-to-day job is his or her day-to-day job is let's come up with a vision for the market. So we need the question of whether we're willing to, basically ride the deficit, because it's going to take a little time for all that to happen. And then whether there's some value in some capital expenditures out there to essentially shed in or close in at least one or if not both of the outdoor sheds. Maybe you don't do both at the same time, maybe you do one. And I think if we just need a little bit more of a business plan, not a detailed one, but what could happen if, in fact, we were willing to spend a little bit of money. I don't even know what, Nancy or Diana, one of you told me.
Well, it's around $344,000 per shed.
So about $350,000 to
shut it in how with what
that
sort of?
That would be kind of roll down doors. It would have conditioned air, and you'd also have restrooms in those sheds.
So I think between now and the next month.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the capital investment potentially would play a huge role, but a lot of it is sort of the vision. It's what you create. I mean, it could be one of the most unique, special things in the city, and it's location, I think, is pretty good for that. And so it's if you have the vision that you're confident in, that we could create something that is uniquely Nashville, but has the local grown products, is a unique items are being sold there, a lively sort of restaurant food scene, easy to be used for special events, but a destination in and of itself. Then I think you got something. But
that's sort of where we are, right?
I think everybody's
sort of where we are, right? We all
Right.
understand the potential, or all believe that there's potential there, but we need somebody to sort of take the lead on the vision and sort of building the plan around the vision.
And the board can give that direction, but the board also has day jobs.
That's right.
We recognize that. Tomorrow you have something else you do. You have 2 day jobs. That's exactly right. 2 very good day jobs, or night jobs, maybe is a better way to put it. And so I think what they're saying is they need to find the right person to be that executive director, or whatever the title is, to really kind of carry out the board's vision. I mean, there's some of their own vision and some of the board's vision. Is that, you think, where the board is on this?
I mean, I think General Services has done a terrific job getting us back up to, we're in the ball field now, and I think we can, move forward with all the improvements that have been made. We can welcome a director in now and say, look what we've got, kind of like this is from almost ground zero up.
Right.
Yeah, here's the charge, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think you have a board meeting when?
Thursday.
Thursday. I think maybe go back to the board, sort of relay that from this hearing, and maybe somehow come up with a little bit of a plan so that when we do, whatever we present to the council, we have a little bit of substance behind that.
There's been work done in looking at opportunities. We have people who are on waiting lists to come in and do business. We've talked to Porter Flea. We've done had a lot of conversations with a lot of folks. But most people are looking for conditioned space. They're not looking for, to be outside on a day like today. So anyway, there are opportunities, and we think that with the board's direction that some of the staff there could start working on some of those plans to get commitments once we know what kind of capital commitments, could be made.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, thank you for taking this on, and thank you to your whole
And you're not
department for
escaping
doing
it completely, by the way. So
No.
so I'm sure you knew that.
MOU can be continued. And Margot, thank you, and thank you to all the board members who have worked on this. Thanks.
Thank you.